Today I'll be installing a brand new light bar I got from Tesstudio on the Cybertruck. Now if you look carefully, you'll notice I already have a light bar. So if I already have one, why would I be installing a second one? There's really three reasons that I'll address to you throughout the video, but in short, I like to do the installs and I like to do the walkthroughs because I've found many of you have told me that these are helpful to you. It lets you see if this is a job that maybe even you're willing to take on yourself or not. Secondly, my current light bar is attached to the roof rack, so you can see up top. The very top roof rack bar where the two bolts are also where that light bar that I got from Hand Show bolt onto the truck. Some people really need the roof racks. I did. Now I had to make several adjustments to make sure they still fit. In fact, I got out the grinder, I ground down these little brackets, and I did a lot of work to make these work, which there'll be a video coming on that also. But many of you are like, man, Michael, I don't want to get out a grinder, go through that mess. So this light bar here will not affect that top mount. This will mount independently. Third reason, some of you do not have a roof rack, which is good if you're talking about trying to maximize out your aerodynamics and get the most range, because surely the extra sticking up on top of the truck hurts that. So if you're trying to have your truck get really aerodynamic and get really low on the glass of the windshield and just really keep the streamlined look, but still give you that extra light. Now this is gonna be installed very similar to the Tesla brand light bars that you Cyber Beast owners or that anybody can purchase aftermarket. The benefit of these are, it's gonna install very easy. It has these little strips where this is actually gonna stick to the windshield, the very top of your truck, which that's what allows that wind to keep going over the top. The early on models of these, specifically with Tesla, the complaint was they were coming off. Well, Tesstudio has addressed that, and you'll see throughout this video how they've done so. But in addition to that, I'm gonna show you a couple little things I'm gonna do to make sure this stays in place. And if for some reason you wanted a dual light bar, which I'll show you why in future videos, you could still do that. Mount for those is still free, while this is just gonna stick to the windshield. I've actually ordered a third light bar. So in coming weeks, I'm gonna do a comparison between this one that has even larger headlights, you'll see here on the screen, but also this one that's currently on my truck now. Let me show you the differences real quick, just between what we're looking at right now. So I've just kind of set this one in place, and you can see just right here how much higher. I'm probably giving up about 2 inches of drag by having this one, but also want to show out just how much you can see the curvature of the light bar fits the curvature of the truck as we push this back in place. So it's going to look and fit really nice. So why these weren't sticking in some of the early on stages from Tesla was really 3 reasons. One, they weren't using a strong enough adhesive. Combined with that, people weren't leaving it suctioned or pushed tight to the truck long enough before driving. They hadn't got a chance to fully cure. The second reason was it was just too cold outside. You need to have it above 50 degrees at minimum for this to adhere. If you can get above 55 or 60, that's best case scenario. Not just 55 degrees outside, your truck has to be 55 degrees. So if you're driving around in 20-degree weather and you park in your garage and immediately go to do it, your truck is still gonna be below that freezing temperature and it's not gonna adhere like it should. Get it nice and warm and then put it on. I've had this now in my garage for going on 3 weeks, just waiting for a day to be warm. Out of nowhere in Denver, Colorado, we popped up with a 60-degree today, so today's the day. The last reason was people weren't cleaning this windshield properly. You've gotta clean this windshield. I feel like that's a no-brainer, but if you're putting it on this is at all dirty, it's not gonna stick. My suggestion to you to clean this is use Windex if that's all you have, but if you have some kind of denatured alcohol or something like that, acetone, you can put on a paper towel, a lint-free paper towel and clean it quick, that's gonna be best. The reason the fuel type cleaners work better is they dry extremely fast. The Windex on a nice bright day on a reflective light, it's gonna dry just fine also. But best case scenario, use an acetone or a mineral spirits. The cleaning process shouldn't need to take a lot of time, but it is important that you do it the correct way to make this adhere. This next thing is important to make sure this fits evenly and square. This is something that I've gotten the habit of doing quite a bit over the years is I dry fit it first. So I have it just sitting there. The reason you want to do that is you can see right here, I've got this little gap right here. The light bar does not run all the way to the stainless. So if you mistakenly put it right here thinking, oh, that's exactly where it needs to be, you're gonna have a big gap on the other side. You can see here now, I've got a good 1.5 inch, almost 2 inch gap. So really, I'm gonna need this bar to be over probably somewhere about there, but I'll get it even on both sides and kind of make a mark just to make sure it's even in the middle of my truck and not way off to the left or right. This does fit way up top of the windshield, all the way up there at the top, just fine. But if you want it to be down a little bit more, because you're trying to get this one, I would presumably think, because you want sleek and small, low to the ground, less wind resistance, I would probably recommend bringing it out down just a little bit from the windshield, maybe down about a 1/2 inch or so, but not more than that, because back on the driver's side, you don't want to be able to touch the windshield wiper. Well, I'd have this centered in the truck, maybe down a little bit. Now, if you're more comfortable with it, go ahead and put it all the way back up. But I like to say it looks better just maybe a little bit down, just not so far down that it's gonna hit the window wiper. I'm sure there's different schools of thought on this. I'm actually gonna physically get on my truck to do this. I don't think you wanna just stick it on standing on your running board from the side. The double stick tape that's on this is a little forgiving, but not as much as maybe you would think or would want. So you really have one ideal shot to get this stuck on right the first time. If you have to re-put up and put it back down, it could still work, but obviously that's not ideal. So whichever way you put it on, either get somebody to help you on the other side that you can communicate well with, or yourself get up on the truck to stick this on. You are gonna have these wires to contend with, but I'm gonna suggest do this later. So don't worry about that right now, just make sure they're outside of the way. And let me show you this. The bottom side of this light bar has an area cut out where the wires need to go. Now the tape in mine has these pushed a little bit over here. So I'm gonna make sure when I push these down, these wires are just a little bit over to this side to make sure they're not holding me up. Because again, I have one shot to nail this.
So as you can see here, I got up on my truck to do this. And so once I removed that sticky backing, I just lined it up as carefully as I could and slowly began to put it in place very lightly. Again, you may not have to get on the truck to do this, but I'll kind of talk about that later here in a minute.
So I've just lightly set this in place in case I need to adjust it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and jump down off my truck and just check it out from the front and the sides to make sure it looks square and even everywhere. So here I'm out front. I'm gonna flip this camera around and let you see exactly how close it is to being centered. So you can see right here, it's pretty close to the center. It's hard to see with the shadow, but that looks good. The next thing, of course, I wanna see, I've got about, what, an inch on this side till I touch the stainless, and about an inch till I touch the stainless on this side. Then the view from the top, it's a little hard to see, but I feel like I did pretty well with that too. I'm on ladders a lot, not a big deal, but as I was doing it, I was thinking in my head, some people aren't gonna be comfortable doing this. If you're not, that's okay, just get somebody to help you. Get somebody to be on the other side while you're on one side. That's probably the easiest, safest, most secure way to do it. If you're not a one-man show like me, maybe you have more friends than I do. And now that I have it on pretty secure, I'm gonna go across the top and push this on really good. There's actually tools they give you to help with this to make it stay, because your windshield is actually curved two ways. That top, as you're looking here, is actually rounded like this, but in addition, it's curved like this. So the slightest little imperfection in your glass or this light bar, and that tape is not gonna stick good. So make sure you push it all across, and then we'll get into these little suction cups they give you that helps hold it on really tight while it's drying.
So just like any suction cup that you would think, you do have to moisten it. You may not have to lick it like a maniac like I just did, but you do have to moisten it, and it kind of sits into place, and then you tighten that little toggle bolt, and that's gonna push it down tight. As I kind of mentioned there, you do have to open this up just about as far as you can, as far as backing that toggle bolt to the top of the nut to create the space. Now it does recommend you do these two from one side and then that middle one from the top of the truck, but that wasn't available to me because of my other light bar. And to make sure it sucked down evenly, I just tightened a little bit of time and moved around in circles.
You can begin to tell they're really on good is when those little purple brackets start to have like just a little bit of bow to them. Again, just a little bit of this bow where they're kind of coming up. They're nice and tight. You can see I've got about probably 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of thread that I've put this down to. So this is gonna wire in from the same exact spot my other light bar is wiring in. Now this is all new to you, you've never seen this. I'm showing you here on the screen now. You have these little flat panels that just kind of flip up. And underneath there's two little bolts you can screw on these little roof racks for, or in this case, my light bar. But also you have on the passenger side only, these little wires. And that's what you see here. I've already used these and taped them up to install my previous light bar, so I'm gonna untape these and wire them into that one. So what's left is really simple. You're gonna have a red and black wire on your light bar, then you're gonna have a mostly red and black wires on the wire coming out of the truck. Now there is gonna be a little blue stripe, don't get thrown by that. Match red with red, black with black. Now again, I have my roof rack and my old light bar on here. You likely will not. The benefit you'll have of not is you'll be able to keep these wires cut really flush to the truck and actually do most of your connections down in here. Once you get them together, you can probably tuck them back in here and might even have enough space to fold this over. With that, I'm gonna just kind of junction and move over, but you just have to wire nut these together. You can use all different kind of connections you'll see here on the screen. We'll talk about, recommend connecting these with a weatherproof wire nut. These are not that expensive. They're actually pretty affordable. They're almost always this exact color. So in addition to the fact they're kind of closed up on there, inside of these is like a silicone gel that will kind of harden over time and hold that in and keep rain and moisture, snow, all that stuff out. So whatever you want to use works. Just connect the red with red, black with black, and make sure this power is off, which I'll show you how to activate this in a minute because you can short this out and you don't want to do that.
Here's what mine looks like with these wires nutted together.
Once you have them to that point, they did include some electrical tape. I would go ahead and wrap these really good to make sure, again, that they're a little bit more safe from weather.
So how I did this is I wrapped each wire with electrical tape individually first and kind of transitioned from the wire over the wire nut to make sure there's no gap. Then I did the two of them together collectively and kind of tucked them down, as you can see below here. Here's what it looks like, and then here's what it is with the lights on. Again, I have both of these bars here, but here's a quick look.
It's now been about 30 hours later, so I surpassed my 2 days plus a couple hours. I'm in the garage today because it's gotten quite a bit colder outside. These purple suction clamps seem to work really well, kept it pretty tight. I'm gonna pull outside here shortly to get you the best angle of what this looks like, and I'll give you a brief comparison. Before we do that, I'm gonna take you inside the truck to make sure you know how to turn it on, because I do hear that's a complaint a lot of people don't know. Before I do a quick demonstration of how bright this light bar is, let me show you to make sure you know how to turn it on. So you're gonna turn it on from this main screen, which I'll shift over to you here. You're gonna hit your main menu button. This is how you're always gonna turn it on, which is the little card down below. That's gonna bring up your menu. Then for your menu, it's outlets and mods. When you turn that on, you're gonna go over to the truck and touch the one that says power feed. As you can see now, the light's out front. I'm gonna turn it off. You can see it go off. This is the only way to turn your light bar on, is with that button. It's a manual setting. So unlike your headlights, they won't just go off when your car goes to sleep. They're gonna stay on until you physically push the button again. Just 2 nights ago, and I was lighting up my neighborhood doing a demo, not realizing it had been on for 20 minutes. You turn it on manually, but you also turn it off manually the same way.
Here's a quick comp. This is just headlights, and this is the light bar. It's just in my backyard. Again, off and the light bar on.
Again, make sure you subscribe, because in a future video, I'm gonna compare this light bar that was on previously, this light bar that we just put on now, and another one's gonna go up on top, and I'll do a ABC comparison side by side. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Last word before I let you go, I wanted to make sure this stayed good, so now it's been about 3 weeks that I put this on this truck. It's still just as firm as always. If you get it clean, and if you get it suctioned on really tight, in fact, I'd probably recommend, if you have it, putting some weight on it overnight while the truck's not moving, and you won't have a problem with it sticking down. This is really awesome. I highly recommend it. See you on the next one.